Hello, it's Gerald Dorr, DD Permy. I thought today would be a great day to take a quick walk around and see how things are progressing. It's early in the season, March 20th, I believe, but we have our first really warm day, about 15 degrees Celsius. So a good time to get outside and do some work, and I'm hoping this will kind of remind me at the end of the summer where all this work went into. So I'm literally walking out my front door right now, and you can see, alongside the driveway, a lot of ornamentals that aren't quite waking up yet. So as we come along here, you can start to see roses and globe cedars and lots of other stuff. Now getting to the stuff that feeds us. So there's my wood pile. Thanks to an arborist, I had an endless supply last summer, and hoping that some of the same things can continue today. Now we're into kind of a new feature that I've been building out. So I've sheet mulched that and starting to put what I'm going to call berry row. So the idea here is, why not have something close to where we park and where we walk often, where we can kind of sample different types of berries. I'm going to build this out throughout the summer, but today my friend Marlene was kind enough to give me one of her Josta berries, so that became the first installation. And throughout here there'll be completely different berries spread out. You probably see lots and lots of logs. Thanks to chip drop, I had, and I mean that thanks, I had some dropped off and I'm still working through them. Hopefully I can find good use to all of them, and if not, they're great in terms of just rotting and helping to build some of the hugel mounds, like I'll show in a second. Some of the only perennials that actually live on this farm when we bought it 2 years ago were these blackberries. So kind of excited to see them thriving, and then in the midst of that mess is also some rhubarb that I think I'm going to move this year so that it has a chance. So now we can start to see some of my raised annual beds. Last weekend it was a little cold, but I managed to chip some compost out from the dump and was able to then use that to kind of top dress these and put another layer of mulch on top of that. You probably also see some cuttings in this bed. So there's a few that are cedars, and as I was doing pruning last weekend, I decided to throw some of those in and see how they go. I'm expecting a very low success rate, but why not? You may wonder why I have chairs like that in my garden. Last summer, after planting some pawpaws, I realized they really don't like that direct sun when they're young, and we happen to be throwing away some of our kitchen chairs, and it served as a good shelter for it for its first year. I just haven't gotten around to moving it yet, and maybe that'll become the friend of a new pawpaw this year. So moving through, this is kind of my main initial food forest. Black currants, dwarf mulberry, lots of chives, mint, volunteer blackberry straight ahead, and then in front of that my annual beds. This is one of my big projects. I did this first hugel mound, and let's call it big. So pile logs and sticks in the bottom, wood chips, more soil, and then a layer of wood chips. I don't expect great productivity out of this year, but we'll see how this comes along. More annual beds, and now into my blueberry paradise. So throughout here, a lot of the little spots in the ground are each individual blueberries, which I help the soil with some elemental sulfur to get that acidity up. Again, I planted all of these last spring, so they just look like little twigs in the ground, but a lot more will come. And now heading over to my compost station, probably needs a little tidying up, and moving over to a tree I'm very excited about, my Toka plum. You can see a very aggressive pruning there to take out the center, because I am going for an open center, but man, that was a difficult cut to make because it just seemed wrong, even if that's the right way. Shrub cherry, which I'm very excited about to start to taste. I think that one's Cupid. Is that a Freedom or a Liberty? I'll explain in my other orchard, but I had panic last year with some mildew and started to do more research on disease-free varieties. So in addition to the 6 I already had planted, I bought a Liberty and a Freedom as kind of a way of making sure they have a very disease-resistant variety. So the other one's over there. I'm stratifying / planting some sweet Sicily, so we'll see how that comes along. Through here are some of my original plantings of both white and pink currants and some mint in the middle. Looking here at my asparagus bed and that unsightly bird bath that I'm going to do something better about this year. I just wanted to give some standing water for the critters because there really isn't much around here. So there's my dwarf mulberry into hascap land. So there's 5 or 6 different types of hascaps, and then the sticks behind are primarily different types of raspberries, I believe mammoth and prelude, as well as at each post you start to see some vines as a way of starting point for me to build out the trellises. Over here there's a himrod, which I'm excited about for a grape, and then eventually there's going to be an arbor behind here where I can start to do some hardy kiwi. There's my other apple tree, back into some of my sea berries. You can see I grew some corn through last year just to try it out. It didn't work really well. So now I'm in the process of mulching that and converting that more over to food forest. Strawberries, I tried to experiment by not protecting them at all. So 5B near Waterloo, Ontario, and they seem to be doing okay. So I don't plan to put straw in them if I don't have to. I really just don't like the idea of adding effort if it's not necessary and I can get away with it. Here's where our pumpkin patch was last year, so I'm going to do some work this year converting that more into perennial tree type stuff, and a hill of plenty that we really had no idea where that came from or what it was for. So there's a very early spring tour of my main food forest. In upcoming videos I'll kind of show you my orchard, my nut orchard, and some of my other areas, but hopefully you get a view of what these twigs look like in the ground. And I'm hopeful to see a lot of growth this year and a lot of green in a couple of months. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe to my channel.